So here we are, the third movie in the original Planet of the Apes franchise. I was really looking forward to this movie considering how much I loved Planet of the Apes and Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I was curious to see where Escape takes the story considering Beneath ends in the way that it does. But I was most curious to see how this movie would hold up considering it has to follow one of the most insane sequels I've ever seen. If you haven't watched my review for Beneath yet, I highly recommend you check it out because that movie is absolutely insane and I loved it to death. So, all that being said, how is Escape and does it live up to the two movies that came before it? In my opinion, no, it does not. It doesn't even come close. In fact, so far, Escape from the Planet of the Apes is the worst one. The plot of Escape is pretty simple. Zira and Cornelius use Taylor's spaceship to travel back in time to crash land in 1970s Los Angeles. The roles have now been reversed, and these apes are being treated like animals until the government learns that Zira and Cornelius are advanced apes from the future. A doctor by the name of Otto Hosland discovers that the future Zira and Cornelius come from is an Earth where the human race has destroyed itself, leaving apes to rule the planet. Because of this, he cooks up a plan to try and kill Zira and Cornelius so that the human race can prevent extinction in the future. Zira and Cornelius have a baby while also trying to flee being captured and killed by the government. So yeah, as I said, I didn't really like this movie. It's definitely a step down from Planet of the Apes and Beneath. It's not that it's a bad movie necessarily, it just feels pretty safe and quite frankly, boring. The most interesting aspect of this franchise up until this point is a civilization consisting of intelligent, advanced apes. That's what makes this franchise so compelling. So when you just bring a couple of these apes to our time, or the 70s rather, it's really not that interesting of a movie. They basically took this franchise and made a fish out of water movie. Maybe in the 70s, this plot was a little more refreshing and interesting, but watching this in 2024, the movie just seems all too familiar and dull. Now, to be fair, there were very few options the filmmakers could take the story given how Beneath ends, but they could have retconned it in a way where we could have stayed in the Apes timeline. I don't advocate retconning stories, but in this particular instance, I would have been happy if they did, because watching Zira and Cornelius in 1970s America is really not that exciting or compelling. Now, I will say the first 15 to 20 minutes or so is pretty fun, with scientists giving Zira a bunch of simple tests that she passes with ease and confidence. This whole segment is actually pretty charming and fun. However, once Zira and Cornelius go out into the world and inject themselves in society, I lose interest. And I lose interest because the fish out of water plot structure is tired in this day and age. Another reason this movie doesn't really land for me is that it feels tonally different from the previous two movies. Most of this movie seems like it was aimed at young adults or like a movie a family could go see, at least from a tone perspective. Both Planet of the Apes and Beneath were also rated PG, but I'd argue both of those movies were more mature than this. They had an edge to them. Escape does end in a dark place, but everything before that just seemed lighthearted and goofy. We went from the massacre of a secret underground telepath mutant society to Zira and Cornelius playing dress up in hippie clothes. It doesn't get more eye rolling than that. The one thing I did appreciate about this movie is that the main characters are Zira and Cornelius. And in my opinion, these two characters have been the most fascinating characters of the franchise so far. And if there's one major complaint I have with Beneath, it's that Zira and Cornelius are basically sidelined from that entire movie. So I was happy to see that they were back in the spotlight after being almost completely absent in Beneath. I just wish they were in a more engaging movie. I won't give away the ending here just in case you want to give this movie a go, but part of me appreciates the bold choice they went with, and another part of me kind of hates it because I love these characters so much, and how they handled their ending was kind of a huge letdown. As I said, this isn't a bad movie per se, it's just a dull one. It has a completely different tone from the previous two. It has a plot that's all too familiar in this day and age, and they removed the most interesting aspect from this franchise, which is the future Earth run by apes. This is without a doubt the worst one of the three so far, and I hope that the next one, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, gets the franchise back on track with some bold, wacky storytelling. I'll report back my findings on the next review, but for now, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, you fumbled the ball.